All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly Skill Bridge meeting. And we have a special guest here today, Casey Lipe. He graduated from the program just 10 days ago, actually 11 days ago now. And yeah, he's going to be giving us a little training session about the experiences that he's had in the first few months in the business. All right, I'm turning it over to you, Casey.
All right, thanks, Or. So yeah, my name is Casey. Graduated on February 11th, and I had been in the program since September. Sorry, yeah. So what I wanted to share was just a little bit of my experience and what I had going through the whole system of like separating from the military, the safety of having the paycheck every time, and then what my wife has called imposter syndrome. I guess it's a cool therapist term, and what I was actually feeling. So I made a cool little slideshow, just going to kind of explain what's going on, and how you're feeling and how it's normal for everyone, and then maybe share some experiences of that specifically for me in different situations. So I'm going to go ahead and screen share. Can everyone see the slideshow? All right, cool. Oops. Yeah, so this is imposter syndrome and how to combat it. Kinda. I use a lot of humor, so I hope you guys like it. It's what I did to keep my troops engaged when we were PowerPointing to death. So bringing that over. Click. Okay, so imposter syndrome, right? So that just reminds me of the Family Guy episode where he's playing the keyboard, and this guy pops up, right? You're a phony. This guy's a big fat phony. So I'm a chubbier guy, and I definitely feel that. So psychologically, what imposter syndrome is, it's where you do feel like a phony. Like, why am I doing this? And sometimes it manifests itself in destructive self-talk. I know some of us have all heard the word self-talk, and if it's important, and it definitely is. And so the way it showed up for me specifically was, why did I think that I could do this? Right? Why did I leave my safety net? I don't know what I'm doing in real estate. And then most importantly, people know that I'm fake. They don't respect me and that I'm going to fail at this. So why did I take the chance of leaving the military and my relative safety net to become a phony? That wasn't cool. Didn't like it. Dealt a lot with it. And so after that, so kind of had me feeling sus, right? I'm not sure what I was doing. And then it's normal, so working through it, doing my own research, and it does help that I have a therapist that lives with me. So, it is normal and everyone experiences it. Like you get that feeling, of like, I'm not sure I made the right decision, but I related that back to my first day of basic training when so I get off the bus and I had a senior airman at E4 as my TI. So I didn't know at the time that the E4, was not not as high up as they were still scary, right? So I'm like, why is this person telling me to run upstairs? I don't even know what room I'm supposed to go to. And then they're yelling at you to fall in. I was like, what's a fall in, right? On your face as soon as you get in the room. I don't even have a bed yet. I got all my bags on. I was like, what are they talking about? And then they come up to you and they're in your face and you're supposed to be at attention. I'm like, why can't I scratch my nose? All these things. And then, of course, this one, we all, why do I have to make my shirt so small in my drawer? This, like, that's kind of how I related my new job in real estate. Like, what are all these terms? What's a mortgage backed security? Why can't someone with a bankruptcy get the right funding? Why do we have to have credit scores? All those types of things, like just questions, and it's just a giant flood of information coming at you, and you're just, holy smokes, right? Like, I'm writing down, like, I have lists of like questions that clients ask me, and I'm like, I don't have that answer, right? So that leads me into this one, right? Getting better. So with basic, right here, after a while, we get into the routine of marching and drinking water when the TI yells at you to drink water, learning how to control your bladder possibly for the first time. I can't tell you how long I can hold my bladder now, but it's ridiculous. And it makes for car rides much better. But my kids can't and my wife can't. So it's crazy. I don't know. That's a skill I never thought I'd have. And I have it. Or being yelled at when my buttons are undone. Probably where I wear a lot of hoodies nowadays. There's no buttons here. You can't yell at me about it. But studies show that, and I don't know which study. So for all you people that are wondering which study, like I've heard it and I'll find it. But studies show that it can take up to a year before you start to feel comfortable in your job. And I remember being a brand new E7 and E7 select, and so you're actually in E6, and they're like, you got to start going to these staff meetings, and they're like, what is the IMR status of all your troops? Some of us already had that, but now I'm answering the commander and the stand up why Johnny Airman can't get to the dentist, and it's because he's afraid of the dentist, or answering all these questions that you're not used to answering, because back when E6 and below, you're kind of just doing ops and you're closing tickets, or that's what I did. I was IT, so closing tickets and all that jazz. But now I have to start answering questions about ticket metrics. Why is our time to service 30 days? I don't know. Why do we have an influx of 100 extra tickets? Well, because the guard came in this weekend and just decided they wanted to submit all their tickets and then leave. So that was kind of where it at. So it was normal, and it's very normal for when you get put into a new position. And we chose real estate possibly for the being lucrative. It can be very lucrative for the hard work we put in. You get a little more control of your time. I mean, clients are going to call you at all hours, but no one's telling you have to go out and meet for this open house or do that, right? It's all up to you, and that's kind of a little more control. So that's why I got into real estate. Besides my uncle also owning his own brokerage, but anyways, so it does get better, right? Just like we had a little bit of the getting used to basic and getting in the routine. And just like you get in the routine of your job as an E3, where you're learning maybe how to check an ID at the gate, and you might be nervous the first couple people that come through, like they're going to yell at me because I'm looking at their ID. But we all know it's part of the routine, right? So it does get better. So for me, I was my own worst enemy, right? And I'm always talking down to myself. And one thing that really helped me was I did find a mentor. She just happens to be my team leader, not to mention being in this skill bridge. You can talk and learn from a lot of people, but personally, I found two mentors. One, she's local here in Indiana, helping me learn the ropes and the normal things, like how the market is here and like which parts of Indianapolis are good for investors. And then, I'm asking her, hey, is this normal that I feel like I'm getting fire hosed with information, especially when clients are calling and asking questions about down payment assistance programs and stuff like that? I'm not familiar. And she's like, yes, I've only been in the business for 5 years. And she's going through the same things that I went through, but 5 years ago. And she has built her team around specifically helping us brand new agents. So I always thought that, that's where she was at, and I wanted to join her team. And then, as I mentioned, my uncle, he has his own brokerage up in northern Indiana. So I just met with him this weekend to, formally ask him if he'll mentor me. And he said yes. So a couple weeks out of, or like 1 week every month or so, I'm going to go up, and he's actually a land developer. So I'm going to learn how to develop land from raw land into a neighborhood, which is like way above what I need to know right now just to get started. But it's the value that I'm going to get later from knowing that information. I couldn't pass up. Of course, it's kind of like a little mini TDY. And I said I'm going to get out of the military, so I'm not leaving my family. And here I go, going up north. But I guess you can't take that out of me. So another thing that helped, and this one was personally from my wife, is holding a mock trial where you're both the prosecution and the defense. and how you have to prove that you're not actually an imposter, right? And I don't know if you can read this because it's the Google clip, but this is day 1,282 of the 9-year mentorship, right? So finding a mentor, sometimes you don't know how long you'll be with them, but I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So anyways, Law and Order. So this is my mock trial, right? So we did this like right when I left, because I was feeling kind of like an imposter. Like, I don't belong here. I should have just stayed in my comfy job where I knew what was going on. But we did this, right? So she had me play it out like right in front of her. And I'm just going to give you a quick recap of it, so you don't have to listen to me talk to myself. But basically, being a phony, right? I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm asking too many questions. That was a big thing for me, is like, I'm asking all the questions, which makes me feel like I'm not comfortable and know enough. So then my defense to that was, yes, I do ask questions, but that's so that I can learn more about my trade. I am a realtor. I have the cool little pin. I paid my dues. I took the test, right? I've passed everything that I need to do, just like when I made rank in the Air Force, you have to pass the test. So that was like the validating thing. You pass the test, and in some cases you pass a board. So someone's saying, yes, you can do this. And so the state of Indiana was like, yes, you could do this. So you need to have confidence in what you're doing. I'm like, okay. So then the prosecution was like, nobody that's a true professional will ask that many questions. And I was like, no, that's false, because as a senior NCO, I asked tons of questions. I'm in those meetings. Why do you need to know this status? Blah, blah, blah. Why is this? Why does it matter that the guard put in 100 tickets, you know? And then that didn't make me a phony. I was a professional just trying to learn and hone my trade, right? So then that helped me feel better as a realtor, that asking questions doesn't mean that you're not a professional. We chose this profession. Something drew us to it. You know, I don't know what your personal reasons were, but growing up and seeing a successful uncle and all the time that he had, you know, I was like, I want that. I no longer fit with the values of leaving my family for 6 to 8 months at a time. I want to see my kids go to high school and grow up and stuff. So that's kind of where I made my decision. And so that, just because I don't know everything yet doesn't make me not a professional, right? I can still ask questions. If anything, that makes you a better professional instead of thinking you know everything. And so in the end, you know, it's worth it, right? We all take this leap of faith. Even if you think back to joining the military, like, that was a giant leap of faith. Like, I'm just going to listen to this dude who works in an office in the corner of the mall, and he's telling me like all these things are going to be great. You're going to get school, you're going to learn, you know, a trade, you're going to go all over the world. And that was a giant leap of faith, because you're at the time I was 20, you know, 2009, the economy sucked. I couldn't get a job. And I was like, okay, let's take the chance. So it was, again, flipping it. And now it's another chance I took of getting out at 13 years, being so close to retirement, but knowing that this is truly what I wanted to do in the beginning. And, you know, it just took a little time for me to hone my skills and learn who I am as a person, and be confident in the ability that if I do leave the military, you know, I'm still going to be a success. I'm not going to end up a statistic of being a homeless veteran. You know, I don't want to do that. So that's driving me. Plus all the naysayers, like, no offense to anyone else, but like the Chiefs and the E8s, they're telling me like, you're stupid, you're so close. Like, now I have a drive to be even more successful, right? So, but what happens is you start to, you know, when you're learning, and this program's great, because I don't know about you guys, but listening to some of those pitches of you know, first time home buyers, or the certified home buying course and all that, like, they ask great questions, and there's little nuggets that have a giant impact on how I even present and talk to clients now. And so that made me feel better, and I was able to accept that I'm learning. And that's when the magic starts happening, right? That's when I accept who I am and I'm more confident. And then you're talking to clients on the phone. I hate talking on the phone. I absolutely hate it. But you know, once you do it for like a week straight, it becomes nothing. Like, you're going to get hung up on. Someone's going to tell you, stop calling me. I don't want to do any of that. And it's like when you have the mindset of this is part of the process and I'm learning how to not get people to be mad at me on the phone because I want to help them, right? I want to help them buy a house or sell a house. That was really helpful for me. So I accepted who I was and who I am in my role now as a real estate agent. And I'm starting to answer some questions that my clients have without having to look it up. Like I'm starting to know that in Indiana, there's a program where you can get 6% of your purchase price, at 0% interest, as long as you stay in a house for 9 years. I'm starting to know that. And now I just got my first referral from a guy who hasn't even closed yet. He was just talking to one of his friends at work. He's like, yeah, this guy, Casey, he's really cool. He used the word cool. Just saying, he used it, not me. He said he's really cool. He understands, a first-time home buyer. He moved around a lot and he was in the military. So he kind of knows the process a little bit, right? And I'm very close to doing my first deal. We're putting in offers on a couple of houses. So hopefully they'll get accepted. And then, at that time, I made it. I'm always learning and honing my skills, but I am a professional. I've now officially sold a house or bought a house. I've closed a client. So there's no longer that imposter that you're not doing this. Now, if that's only my first sale and then I flop and that's my first one for the year, over time, I'm going to build my pipeline and get those people that are, I'm closing. And, I just got a call from an investor out in San Francisco who's looking to buy 10 deals this year. So maybe I'm the guy for him. You never know. But, I am making it and I'm not an imposter. This is something that I chose to do. And just like when I first came into the military, I didn't know what was going on. And by the end of it, I'm leading a team of 30 people. Who would have thought that in the beginning when you're an E1, just like, holy crap, this guy's yelling at me to run up the stairs, all the way to where I'm writing packages and making my airmen feel like they're accomplishing a mission, in that 13-year time span. It's crazy how far you come from that to that, right? So you just got to give yourself time, sometimes a year, sometimes less, and finding a mentor and giving yourself a mock trial and talking yourself through it will help accelerate you feel more comfortable. I've got my office set up now. I'm a little more comfortable. Things are happening for me. So very excited about it. And, that was it. That's all I have. You guys can reach out to me on Slack if you want. And then I can share my personal numbers so you guys can call me whenever you want or have questions. I really want to give back. I appreciate this whole program and what it gave to me and the confidence to go out there. So I want to make sure I return that for you all. If you have any questions about anything, I am a senior NCO at heart and I want to help, right? So thank you for listening. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or shoot me a DM or whatever you want to do. Thanks for listening and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Casey. I have a question. So if you had to whittle it down to one or two things, what were the one or two things that helped you most with overcoming the imposter syndrome?
So the thing I was afraid of the most, honestly, was getting on the phone. I'm a millennial. I hate the phone. I text, I WhatsApp. And to me, no offense to anyone, if you like the phone, that's kind of boomer stuff to me. So what started happening was my team is on Zillow Flex, so I start getting a ton of calls. I'm like, okay, this is just the way it's going to have to be, and I'm going to have to get over it. So honestly, what helped me get over it really fast was just setting a lot aside the time, like get on the phone and call leads that are brought into me. And now I'm comfortable on the phone, and I always ask, and I still ask, like, hey, are you comfortable with texting or email? Because that's where I'm most comfortable. And most of the time they're like, yeah, that's fine. Or no, just give me a call. Okay, fine, I'll have to call you. But I also found that Zooming helps because I don't know what's different about the Zoom than the phone call. It's just something about being on the phone. It's probably from when, growing up, having to call and ask girls or somebody out on a date and you're afraid to get a hold of their dad. So that's like ingrained in that's my neural path, like calling someone I'm going to be told no. So maybe the Zoom and the text are helping, but But honestly, just getting it done, and the first time you get a couple of people say, "Yeah, I want to work with you," that was the most helpful and helped me feel, not out of place. And then sharing what I know and what I learned, we get a lot of leadership training, and I hope you guys, leverage that. Even as an E4, like there are people out here that don't know how to lead teams, and like my team leader, she shares a lot of her frustrations with me on like making sure people are on time or like what calendars he uses. Like we get a lot of that. And it took me a minute to realize that not everyone in the civilian world gets like training from like E3 up to like even lead one person. And they're kind of just figuring out. So I was able to share my frustration or share my experiences with her frustrations. And it made me feel more comfortable. Like, okay, so I might not know like how to answer, oh, I had a bankruptcy last year. Can I get a loan? Like, even though I know in my mind the answer is no, I don't know how to handle that. But I'm able to trade my information on how to lead a team with getting that knowledge and feel like I'm still contributing to the team, right? I don't want to just take and then go off on my own, be like, all right, see ya, thanks for teaching me real estate, I'm gonna go make my own money. So I feel like I'm giving back to her as well, for trading my knowledge for her knowledge, right? So that made me feel a little more comfortable with who I am as a person.
Yeah, those are great points. So it sounds like if you had to sum it up in 2 words, it's reps, getting repetitions, and experience. So just getting out there, doing it.
Yeah. Sorry, I talk a lot. I'll walk around the bush all day if you want me. So.
No, I just wanted to summarize it into like something that people can take away. But yeah, you made a really good point. Like just actually doing it. That's the best way to overcome that imposter syndrome. Like with whether that's starting off with a fellow intern or someone on your team, your mentor, whatever it is, just getting or like your spouse, your kids, your dog. Like just doing it is going to help you overcome that imposter syndrome. And then also like what Casey was saying, your experience, like don't underestimate the weight, the value of the experience that you have from being in the military. You might feel like, oh, I was an infantryman or I was a transpo, truck driver or whatever, what mortarman. You might feel like it's completely different business or completely different skills, but stuff you did every day, you have 100 times more experience than a realtor that's been in the business for 5 or 10 years. Just like, and you'll notice that with like the smallest things, like when you're setting an appointment with another realtor for a showing or something like that, and it's like, oh, how's next week? Like they'll say something like that, and you're just like, you have that decisiveness to specify an exact date and time. How's Wednesday 1 p.m. At the property that we're showing, whatever it is. And it just shows that you have the ability to make a decision, whereas people who did not serve in the military don't have that ability because they've never gotten the reps at doing that.
Oh yeah, that sparked one thing too. I'm finding that me being comfortable with awkward situations in silence, right? Because there are times where we have to go pee in a cup or watch someone pee, and that's very awkward. So you kind of get used to the like just being like your boss says go here and be in this awkward situation, and you're able to kind of just like absorb it. So what I found recently is a lot of my real estate agent counterparts, like if I'm calling a listing agent, they're very uncomfortable with silence. So if I can just sit there and like, so, how many offers have you had? And they'll say, oh, we've had a few. And then I'm comfortable enough to just sit and be silent. And then they'll start filling that space. And I get that little bit of information like, oh, well, the seller really values the land. I'm like, okay, so then I go to property records and look how much the land's worth versus what they're asking. So, kind of use that to your advantage. Like those of us that have to give feedback, we know that the most of it is said when there's nothing said at all, right? When it's silent. Or if you're asking your troop, why were you late? And then you just sit there and then they'll be quiet and then they'll rat on themselves, right? So that same skill will apply when you're negotiating for your client. because I'm comfortable with silence. I'm naturally like, I like being in the quiet, So like, if you're just going to sit on the phone and tattle on yourself, I'll listen, and then you'll give me key insights onto how to negotiate better for my client, which leads to more referrals and more business and blah blah blah. But yeah, that reminded me of, I don't know what you said, but something sparked back here in the cobwebs that, yeah, that's a good skill that we all have, right? So.
Any other questions in the crowd? We're coming up on the half-hour mark. If you have a question, you're too shy to speak, you can go ahead and type it in the chat box or unmute yourself. But just quick announcement for next week. So this week we're supposed to do the little one-on-one little script practice. We're going to roll that to next week. Next week we'll also be talking about suicide awareness and prevention. It's something that's plaguing the military and really just society in general. So we're going to talk about some of the statistics and some techniques to prevent you and ways that you can help others to prevent them from becoming a statistic. There's always an option to get out of whatever kind of rough situation you're in. And so we're going to be talking about that next week. And then we'll be doing the one-on-one practice of your script scenario. But if there's no one with a question, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. We'll stick around a little longer in case there's somebody that wants to wait to ask a question. And thank you again, Casey, for that class. Is very helpful. Definitely something that I experienced as I was getting into the business.